You aren't productive, you're terrified. Imagine a person who has it all figured out. From the outside, they're the gold standard of modern society. They wake up at 5 a.m., they hit the gym, they crush their deadlines, and their inbox is always at zero. When you look at them, you see discipline. You see ambition. You see a machine that never breaks. Maybe that person is a colleague. Maybe it's a friend. Or maybe that person is you. But there is a secret you carry. A secret that stays hidden behind the clean aesthetics of your Notion workspace and your calm professional voice. At night, when the laptop is closed and the world goes quiet, your heart doesn't slow down. Your mind doesn't rest. Instead, it starts to scream. You aren't actually productive in the way you think you are. You are running. And you're running because you are terrified of what happens if you stop. The Great Masquerade. In psychology, we often talk about anxiety as something that paralyzes. We picture someone unable to leave their bed, someone having a panic attack in a grocery store, or someone avoiding social contact entirely. That is the typical face of anxiety. But high-functioning anxiety is different. It doesn't paralyze you. It propels you. It's a silent engine. It takes all that nervous energy, all that dread of being not enough, and it funnels it into work. To the outside world, you look like a high achiever. But internally, you are a hostage. You aren't working because you love the task. You are working because the thought of not working feels like an impending catastrophe. Think about your to-do list. When you see an empty slot in your calendar, do you feel peace? Or do you feel a cold, creeping sense of guilt? For the overthinker, a free hour is a vacuum that must be filled. If it isn't filled with progress, the brain begins to attack itself. The identity trap. Why do we do this? Why do we trade our peace for output? It usually starts with a core belief that was planted long ago. Many of us grew up in environments, whether at home or in school, where love and worth were conditional. You weren't loved for who you were. You were praised for what you did. A 10 out of 10 on a test meant you were a good kid. Winning a trophy meant you were valuable. Over time, your brain made a dangerous connection. Performance equals safety. If you are the best employee, you won't get fired. If you are the most helpful friend, you won't be abandoned. If you are always busy, you don't have to face the terrifying emptiness inside you. High-functioning anxiety is essentially a survival mechanism that never turned off. You are still that kid trying to get the October 10th so that you can feel, just for a moment, that you are allowed to exist. The cost of the fuel. The problem with using anxiety as fuel is that it's high-octane, but incredibly corrosive. It burns out the engine. When you operate from a place of fear, your body is in a constant state of fight or flight. Even when you are sitting on your sofa watching Netflix, your cortisol levels are elevated. Your nervous system is scanning for threats. This is why you can't just relax. Your brain sees relaxation as vulnerability. This leads to a specific type of exhaustion. It's not a physical tiredness that a good night's sleep can fix. It's a soul weariness. It's the feeling of being tired of being yourself. You start to experience the wall. This is the moment where even the simplest task feels like climbing Mount Everest. Not because the task is hard, but because your internal battery has been drained by the constant background noise of, am I doing enough? Is this perfect? What if they find out I'm a fraud? The Perfectionism Paradox. High-functioning anxiety is often disguised as perfectionism. You tell yourself you have high standards. But there is a massive difference between the pursuit of excellence and the fear of failure. Excellence is about the joy of the craft. Fear of failure is about the dread of the consequence. When you are an overthinker with high-functioning anxiety, you don't finish a project and feel proud. You finish a project and feel relieved. Relieved that you didn't fail this time. Relieved that you can keep the mask on for one more day. But notice what happens next. That relief lasts for about 5 minutes. Then, the anxiety looks for the next thing to worry about. It's a horizon you can never reach. The turning point. How to stop. So, how do we break the cycle? How do we stop being a slave to our own productivity? It starts with a radical realization. You are not your output. The world will tell you otherwise. Your boss, your social media feed, and even your friends might celebrate your hustle, but they are celebrating your symptoms, not your health. To heal, you have to learn the art of purposeful inefficiency. You have to do things that have zero ROI, return on investment. You need to sit in a chair and stare at a wall for 10 minutes. You need to take a walk without a podcast in your ears. You need to let a non-essential email sit in your inbox for an extra day just to prove to your brain that the world won't end. You are retraining your nervous system to understand that you are safe even when you aren't useful. The final insight. The most terrifying thing for someone with high-functioning anxiety is the idea of being average. We think that if we stop pushing, we will become nothing. We fear that the machine is all we have. But the truth is the opposite. The machine is what's blocking you from seeing who you actually are. When you stop running, you will finally meet the person you've been ignoring all these years. And yes, that person might be tired. They might be messy. They might be scared. But they are real. And a real life, even a messy one, is infinitely more valuable than a perfect one powered by terror. It's time to stop being a high-functioning ghost in your own life. It's time to stop running and start living. Because you were never meant to be a machine. You were meant to be a human being.